being quite possibly the biggest fight of 2026, as well as the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. There's no way I was gonna do an analysis video on this. This fight is huge. I mean, you're talking about Junto Nakatani, right? You're talking about a three-weight world champion, unified at 118, Ring Magazine title down there. Has knocked out, I believe, 24 of his 32 opponents. But then you have possibly the greatest Japanese boxer of all time in Naoya Inoue, two-weight undisputed champion, four-weight world champion, has 27 knockouts across 5 weight divisions. Here's my analysis on this fight. Here's my deep dive onto this fight. Prediction, logically speaking, I see Inoue winning this, and I don't think it will be close. I do not believe it will be close because we have never seen Nakatani tested at this level where he has to struggle and at the same time overcome and adapt to the situation. So, both of the last fights was on the same night, December 27. Inoue faced Picasso, and Nakatani faced Sebastián Hernandez. Nakatani did have a difficult time during that fight. I mean, he was getting pressured by the Mexican. He was getting overwhelmed at times. He did have his face, and his face was busted up. Now, whether that was from headbutts or from punches, I rewatched the fight. I still don't know where he got that bulge from. However, it did happen. At the same time, Inoue cruised to a 120-108 decision against Alan Picasso. Now, whether in doubt that Picasso was worse than Hernandez on that same night, I don't know. But the truth remains the fact that Inoue has had the better performances, the better recent performances. And Inoue has also had more activity. I believe that Nakatani's last fight winning team was against Ryosuke Nishida. That was for the unified IBF and WBC championship as well as the ring. While Inoue last time faced Akhmadaliev as well for one of his title defenses at 122, I believe around September, the day after Crawford Canelo. So let's just deep dive into what both fighters have. Nakatani as a fighter, you can call him elusive. One of his strengths is that he can move around the ring really, really well. He has good footwork. And that footwork leads him to set up those massive uppercuts that you see him just landing. He's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He just cranks them out and is just landing uppercuts at will. He also has very, very good power. He has very, very solid power. Even though I might have not seen it or might have not been noticeable in the fight, Hernandez did get hurt to the body from some of Nakatani's punches. He did get hurt by some of it. And as we saw in the Hernandez fight, Nakatani is a tough man. That man will not quit. He was getting overwhelmed, overpressured, and he did not quit. Under no circumstances did not go down to the campus. The campus? The canvas. However, some of his weaknesses, though. He does not have a good inside game. I will say that. He does not have a very good inside game. You'll see that whenever an opponent rushes in and actually makes it inside to where Nakatani's hands are and just digs deep into his chest, Nakatani barely has no answer and wants to get out so he can have full leverage on his punches. Another weakness is I do not believe that he has the elite experience like Inoue does. We've seen Nakatani fight Maloney, Cuellar, Nishida, Hernandez, but we don't see him having an elite names, very, very elite names like Inoue. Inoue has Donaire 2 times on there, Fulton, Akhmadaliev, Cardenas, Neri. Who else am I missing? Picasso was ranked in the top 10 in the ring when I fought. Emmanuel Rodriguez. The whole World Boxing Super Championship tournament. That. We don't see that elite experience with Nakatani. Yes, he's a 3-weight world champion. Inoue and Nakatani actually started off in the same weight class when they debuted. However, we haven't seen that elite experience from Nakatani yet. So I don't know how he'll look come Saturday night when that bell rings and then he's in there with the monster Inoue. Now let's go to Inoue for his strengths and weaknesses. For his strengths, I mean, he has immaculate punching power. He has speed, power, IQ. He has good foot, possibly the best footwork in boxing. Um, his reflexes. He's twitchy. He's fast. He's a you know. Mark Kriegel once said that we get so enamored with the punching power of Inoue that we forget that he's a master boxer. He can truly do it all. He can outbrawl the brawlers. He can outbox the boxers. He can outpunch the punchers. He can truly do everything. And it's amazing that from coming up from light flyweight all the way to 122 that his power still carries. Yes, he hasn't had a knockout in the past two fights against Akhmadaliev and Picasso, but Akhmadaliev is an elite opponent who deserved to be in there with Inoue, even though he got washed, even though he did get washed. He is an elite opponent by our standards. And Picasso, he was just shutting up, man. He wasn't really trying to throw anything. I mean, I wouldn't either. Like, he was getting hit to the body. He got stunned by right hands by Inoue. I would just shut up and take the moral victory, to say that I went with a decision with Inoue. Something else that Inoue has that I don't think many people have is that he's also tough and very, very gritty. We've seen against Cardenas and Neri that he's able to get up from a knockdown. And he's able to put on the punishment nearly after he got knocked down. I would say that Cardenas was his hardest fight. And reason being is that he got knocked down with a heavy, heavy left hand. And he got up and he was still stunned in the next round. He recovered though and then knocked out Cardenas in, I believe it was the 7th or 8th round. I believe it was the 8th round. Now, when you have a guy like Inoue that can do it all, and then when you knock him down, when you actually hurt him, he's been hurt in the Donaire fight too. When you hurt him, and then he doesn't go down, but instead rises up to the occasion, even as he is an elite fighter, he still finds a way to turn that 5th or 6th gear on. It's amazing what he can do. However, he has been knocked down, so therefore he does have some weaknesses and is human. He drops that right hand. He drops that right hand occasionally. He needs to stop dropping that right hand because that's Nakatani's bread and butter. If Nakatani's able, that Andrew Maloney knockout, that was devastating. If Nakatani's able to get Inoue to drop that right hand and really go in with that punch, Inoue's been hit by some hard hitters, but by the explosiveness of Nakatani, I don't think he'll get up from that, realistically speaking, because that's a KO punch right there. We've seen what happened with Andrew Maloney. We've seen what happened with Alfredo Santiago. And we've seen what happened with other Nakatani opponents when they get lazy and drop that right hand. We've also seen Inoue, and this might not even be a weakness, it might actually be a strength, but we have seen Inoue, sometimes he does start out slow. I mean, against Fulton, he did not start out slow. Fulton was his best performance. But sometimes he does start out slow. And in this fight, it will be best for Nakatani in order to basically push the pace and push Inoue back. But hardly from that, Inoue has barely any weaknesses. I mean, when the man gets knocked down, he just gets up and fights. And outboxes you, outpunches you, and soon that power delivers. And that's the thing with Inoue. That power has always been delivering. Because it doesn't matter what's been what happens during the fight. We've seen other boxers, we've seen, elite fighters like Better BF, Tank, Subaru Matias. He's not elite per se, but he is a very, very good fighter. We've seen fighters with power, but we've never seen a combination of speed and power. Because, sometimes you usually have to sacrifice the power in order to get the speed, or sacrifice the speed, winding up punches so you're able to get that power. But Nakatani has a combination of both. He has both speed and power. And so he's not going to sacrifice anything in order to have essentially explosiveness in his punches. I believe that this fight will be won with the footwork battle. Nakatani does get overzealous sometimes and does overcommit on his punches, which is where Inoue is able to counterpunch. Now, against Hernandez, who was just overpressuring and overwhelming, Nakatani is not able to counterpunch from there because he's like the dude's right there on your chest. But with Inoue, though, if Nakatani is able to make some space, and Inoue being the boxer puncher that he is, he also wants to have some space for himself. Nakatani is able to capitalize on those situations. Now, why did I say that this will not be close and that Inoue is going to win pretty easily? Simply because of the IQ and the experience. They both have very, very high IQ. However, people saying this is a 50-50 fight, and I do definitely agree with them. This is definitely a 50-50 fight on paper. However, Inoue he's just had so much more experience. His first world title fight at 6-0, and he's been in 26 world title fights, 27 when May 2 comes. He's on par with Mayweather for the amount of title fight victories that they both have. He has more title fight knockouts than anyone else, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. He's just had so much more experience and has a deeper bag to pull into when something does not go wrong, does not go to plan. He has a plan to go back to. I don't feel like Nakatani is able to overcome and adapt to that situation, though. The reason being is because Nakatani hasn't had that experience, and he's gritty. But in the Hernandez fight, when he actually faced adversity at a higher weight class for the first time, he did not know what to do in that second half of the fight. He was outboxing Hernandez for the first 6 rounds. When Hernandez caught up and started overwhelming him, he did not know what to do. And essentially in the championship rounds, 10, 11, 12, he was just clinching and holding on for dear life. Now, styles make fights, and we know that Hernandez is a typical Mexican power boxer, when Inoue is a master boxer puncher. And we know that the fight's going to look different than the Hernandez fight. However, that's the only way we can reference, because you're only as good as your last fight. Visually, of course. We don't know how Nakatani is going to be in there May 2. And it's a weird one, because for me to say that it's going to be a landslide victory, I see it being 117, 111, 118, 110. I do not think that Nakatani will get knocked out. If he gets dropped, that'll be very, very amazing, because I feel like his footwork is going to save him from getting dropped. However, I do not feel like Nakatani will be able to adapt and to put on the pressure on Inoue to make something happen. I believe that Inoue will make him respect the power coming back, the speed coming back, the reflexes coming back. And even though Nakatani is an elite high IQ boxer puncher just like Inoue just has that extra level that Nakatani hasn't had yet. And, I've seen people reference this fight as, another Crawford versus Spence, where it was 50-50 on paper. But then come fight night, and Crawford just dismantles Spence. And I kind of see him going like that, except just going for the decision. I mean, we've seen Inoue basically have a 60-40, 70-30 fight with Akhmadaliev, and then Inoue just destroys him. 120-108, wins every round come fight night. I mean, on paper is a good fight, yes. But would I have loved to see Nakatani with one more fight, possibly a Luis Neri, or maybe in a Cardenas fight, or even Picasso, or Akhmadaliev, even though Henny, would I have loved to see him with another fight at 122 so he can really get acclimated? Yes, of course. Of course, I would have loved to see that. However, since this fight is happening now, I do not think Nakatani will win. He will not get dropped. That's my prediction. I don't think he will get dropped. I don't think he'll get hurt per se. He'll get stunned. I'll say he gets stunned. However, I think he gets outboxed by the monster. I think the monster will make him respect his power. Will make him respect the speed and what's coming back to him. and will just counterpunch. And then the only way I see this being a stoppage is if Nakatani gets hurt to the body. I see that being a stoppage. If Nakatani gets hurt to the body, I do see Inoue stopping Nakatani to the body. I don't see him stopping to the head. Because again, Nakatani is a tough son of a bitch. That boy can. Yo, he can fight. He can fight. So I don't see this being a knockout, but it's weird because that's my prediction. But logically speaking, we all want to see a 50-50 fight where Inoue is really tested. Not just knocked down tested, as in, oh shit, he's about to lose tested. But I just don't see it happening. I see after this fight, whether the Bam Rodriguez fight happens or not, I see Inoue. If he fights Bam, I feel like he wins that fight easy. Because Bam he's had so much experience, Bam, but I don't think he's just fought anyone like Inoue, and it's at a higher weight class. So unless he gets acclimated to the weight, I don't see it being a 50-50. But the only way I see Inoue really being tested is if he moves up to 126 and fights, like Shushu Carrington or Espinoza or Leo, or he fights like another champion at 126, or like Brandon Figueroa if he fights him. That's the only way I see Inoue getting tested. And really, with the Shushu fight, I do see Inoue having some trouble with that. I mean, he's fought Fulton, yes, but it's a higher weight class. Shushu been there for a long time. But for this fight specifically, I don't see it being a 50-50. Oh yeah, also we have on the undercard, we also have Takuma Inoue's brother, going against Kazuto Ioka. Ioka's trying to become the first fifth weight world champion, fifth division world champion from Japan. Who do I see winning that fight? I lucky got Inoue's brother, Takuma. I got him winning the fight because I think Ioka's out of his place. I mean, fifth weight. We only see a couple of elite boxers do that: Crawford, Pacquiao, Mayweather. However, if that happens, then I'll be ecstatic to see fifth weight world champion from Japan. But for Inoue, Nakatani, I see this not being close at all. I see Inoue having a 117-111 decision, winning 9 rounds. If he does stop Nakatani, I see it being to the body. And it will just not be close. It will not be close. So that is my official prediction. Thank you for watching. If you stuck for this long, thank you. Leave your prediction or comments down below. And thank you for watching.